All right, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first webinar series of the Edutweeter 101. We're glad to have you guys here, and tonight we'll actually talk about Twitter and advocacy, talking about taking the next step and how to use Twitter to amplify our voice and get those messages out there to those who are in charge of policy, as well as those who are involved with education, and make sure that we as the experts in the classroom and the schools that work with these students on a daily basis are being heard loud and clear when it comes to education in general. As you can see, there's my handler name, it's Mentor Troy, so any questions down the road, you can just direct message me. Or also, if you have any questions tonight, you can use the two hashtags, hashtag #CoEdVoice or the hashtag #CoEdVoiceChat. And I do have my tweet deck up so I can see if any questions come across the board and go from there. So to get started, let's see here. Our objective tonight is basically we're going to talk about three different things that really are important when it comes to our engagement with Twitter. And so, in our advocacy for it, to being an advocate for our students as well as the career and the profession. So we're going to talk about the ongoing social engagement with Twitter, how that really works for. There's at least 4 different levels of it, and each one builds upon it. Talk about some best practices as being an advocate on Twitter, as well as our credibility of retweets and likes. Now, you'll notice that the like is different, has a little heart, which you think, well, this is not, isn't that for Facebook? Actually, Twitter did a change a couple weeks ago. I think it was a week or a couple months ago. I can't remember what it was. And they changed their favorites, which used to be the star, to like. So they're kind of following the Facebook situation, which is interesting. But I was a big fan of the favorite versus the like, but that's my personal preference, everything. So these are going to be the 3 things that we'll talk about tonight and hopefully cover up in this webinar. So the first thing I want to talk about is the social engagement. I got this graphic from a book that I was reading. I was talking about how social media can be used by school leaders. And in the book, she talks about, in the book's called the social media for school leaders. Great reference. I can tweet that out so that way you guys and gals can kind of like purchase it and look over it, but it gives you great ideas. But he talks about how Twitter really works with the social media engagement, and he covers in 4 different areas, as you can see, the awareness, the feedback, the collaboration, and the advocacy. And it starts very low with awareness, which is what we basically, if we start using Twitter, we start to realize what its potential is, how it works, we're just aware of it, and these are kind of like the basics. And then you'll build up your feedback, and then it's taking the next level in the feedback. You're actually engaging, you're getting more involved, and then you go to collaborative part of it with the collaboration, and this is where you start having those wonderful hashtag conversations, which is where we define what we're really talking about. And then the biggest one is when we start pushing out for some advocacy, talking about being advocates, and we're not just looking at mentors that we've engaged, the hashtag conversations we've had, or what people call a Twitter chat, but also really engaging and bringing followers in. Going from, I always believe in the little saying from Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. This is kind of like what Seth's talking about, that when you become the advocate and you start pushing yourself out there and you start pushing the words and the voice out, start engaging the followers, and people start listening to you. So as you can see on the left-hand side talks about how the level of social engagement occurs. So talking about awareness, as we begin this year with working with Twitter and becoming edutweeters, some of us will start at the basic level where we're just barely working with it and becoming awareness on it. And what that means is, as you can see there, awareness is that we are engaging ourselves in Twitter. It may be daily, it may be possibly weekly. The goal is you want to try to at least be present in there on a daily basis so that you can see what's going on. The easy things about it is, we just post our updates about what we're doing. If we have our personal account, we're telling people what we have for dinner, what we did for the day. If we're using our school account, we're sharing the great things that our students are doing. I'm going from there. If you come across something on the internet and then it's a good read, we share our links. We're going to post quotes up there. all of those little things, and of course just clicking the little retweet, not quoting it, but just retweeting allows you to just make it aware that you are present on there, and you're giving an awareness of topics, discussions that are going on in the Twitter world, and bringing, you know, just the awareness of it. The one thing about Twitter that I love about it is instantaneous. It's live. The news comes out faster on Twitter than you would see on Facebook or in the media itself. So that's the benefit about having the awareness of it. So moving from that level, we go into what's called the feedback. Now this is where the engagement really begins. When we start posting at replies, which means we're posting back to the people that we're engaging ourselves with, we might start asking serious questions with them. So we might check with them individually, you know, direct message and ask them these questions, and we start linking ourselves to various, you know, instantaneous surveys that they bring out there, or they're asking us questions about things and we're just engaging it. That's what the feedback is that we start asking our questions. We just want to find out a little bit more. We're diving in. And when you take that level, when you move from the awareness to the feedback of it, it's a little, it can be a little scary. It's charting new territories. It's experiencing new things, that how people work, and you're afraid that, well, what do I say? The one thing I love about direct message, let me cover this real quickly, is the one thing about direct message is Twitter has now removed the limited amount of characters that you can type in direct message. Direct message actually allows you to type almost a novel if you wanted to choose to do that, versus you only have 140 characters, which includes, you know, your punctuation, your spaces, your pictures, your links, when you're doing an at reply. So that's where, you know, we want instantaneous feedback and questions that we ask. And, you know, when you go from the awareness to the feedback level and you're making yourself present in the Twitter world, you can start seeing these questions. You can start going from them and asking them, or responding to questions that people ask you, and it's that instantaneous, and it builds on there. The next level he talks about is going from the feedback to the collaborative. Now this is where it gets exciting, as I always say. It gets exciting because when we start to collaborate with other people that are on the same issues that we have, the same beliefs and philosophies, the same viewpoints, we start to build the personal learning network, or the PLN, the personal learning network. We start engaging with others that are not just in our building, in our city, in our state, national, but global. We start to see the various opinions. We start to see the various ideas and opportunities that people talk about when it comes to these issues that we're all dealing with on a daily basis. So it's really great to just know that this is what happens. We engage mentors. I found this part particularly interesting because mentors, when we look at it, are people who guide us and bring us to the awareness of what we're doing, and they give us the support, and you can engage with those mentors. And I believe that when I was last year, when we were working with the opt-out movement here in Colorado, I became very engaged with a couple of you know, supporters that were not only in our fellowship, but also that were in other schools, other leaders, and then I started to really get engaged with various legislative leaders. They became mentors. I was able to instantly engage and see where they're going, and be in the you know, that instantaneous feedback and talking. And then, of course, my favorite thing is when we learn how to use the hashtag, is having those conversations and having documentation. You know, and I'll show you later in the webinar where we can have those opportunities where you can start participating in some of the web chats that go on, the Twitter chats that go on every day. It's amazing to see that there are so many Twitter chats available, and it's great because it's a collaborative. So when we're looking at what are other states doing in the world of education, what's bringing in, what's buying in, it's great to know that we can collaboratively work with other people in other states, in other schools, in other disciplines, and we don't have to meet somewhere. We can have this ongoing conversation instantly right there and then. It's just a great way that we collaborate, and this is how we build. Through many of our in-services that we've had and a lot of the fellowship convenings that we've gone to, it's interesting to know that I can have a conversation with people who have the same philosophy and thoughts and be able to interact and build. And that's what I love about it. Again, it's building that network. I got a support system. People that are really working with this, we've got the support system, and it's able us to build and support one another when it goes to the collaborative level. The last level is the one that we want to reach every day, and the goal of our Edutweeter here, becoming an Edutweeter is the advocacy part. You are an advocate. Everyone knows a lot. My favorite saying is that everyone knows something about education because they've been in school at least once. They've been in school at one time in their life. But we as the educators are the ones that are developing and understanding, and we are the experts inside the classroom with our students. We are seeing what's working, we are seeing what's not, and we have to relay those messages to the people who are making decisions on our behalf. And they've got to be aware of what's going on, and so we need to make sure that we are sharing this information with them. So he talks about advocacy is we retweet messages. Now, what he means by retweet messages, it's just not clicking on the retweet button. The retweet messages means is you're clicking on the retweet with a quote. And I'll cover a little bit more about why that's more important and more valid than just clicking a retweet. And then distributing content. Later on I'm going to talk about the 411 process or the 411 rule and what that really entails. But that talks about distributing the content to get the word out there. It's back in the days when we were thinking about it is when he said that story is when you tell one person, that person tells 4 people, and then those 4 different people tell 4 more people, and before you know it, you're building a network. So it's the word of mouth. Now that still works to this day when you're looking at various restaurants or ideas, but also Twitter has now been able to expand this, and we're not just dealing with people that we come in contact with, we're dealing with people at the state level as well as the national level and global. So it's that 411 that we're going to talk about when it comes out to distributing content. And then engaging followers. Too many times people feel that we have to have a lot of followers, and again, it's the philosophy idea of, the field of dreams, if you build it, they will come. You're going to have followers, people that are going to be interested to see what you're saying based on your tweets and your retweets or your retweets with quotes. They're going to be interested in seeing what the hashtag chat rooms that you're participating in. They're going to start seeing that, and what that does is it slowly but for surely builds your credibility. And they start to see what you're doing, and they start to see what's occurring, and they look at you and they see you as that professional, and you're able to just bring them instantaneous information from the day, from your school, and make aware of issues that are currently needing our opinion or our thoughts, or looking at those policymakers and saying, here's what you need to do, you need to pay attention to this, this is what's really happening. So he talks about that when you're engaging your followers, and people will start following you, and they start supporting you, and when you're in the need, like it says, when you need your troops, you've got your crew to work with, because those followers have followed you for a reason, and they see that, and they're going to help you and support you, and that's when you do it with them as well. So, when I started off working with Twitter, I was very naive with it, started diving into it, and when I started working with it, I started seeing the value behind it, and I started following some people, some pretty important people, questioning them, doing the awareness part, having that feedback. And then I also followed into the collaborative. I started working with them, and now we are at that point where we work together to educate others, and then we act upon it, and we become now the advocates for it, and now we're starting to build the followers, and we're starting to get people to follow us as well. So the big thing about, for those 3-4 levels to work, is presence. It matters. People pay close attention. Since Twitter is a very instantaneous and it's live, and it's happening now. Right now, I'm watching my tweet deck, and I'm seeing these feeds coming through. The thing about it is it's happening now. And the only way that your credibility as a leader and as an Edutweeter is you have to be present, which means if you tweet something once a day, that's great. You're making yourself present. But if you tweet once a week, again, you're showing your presence, but people are going to look at and follow, and they're going to say, well, this person only tweets once a week. They're really not serious about it, or they jump in and they don't tweet a lot. So they start to make those judgments. And unfortunately, They don't know who you are as an individual. All they're looking at is your bio, and all they're looking at is the tweets that you're getting. And it's interesting because I'm going to challenge you to monitor after tonight, or after viewing this webinar. I want to challenge you to mark down how many tweets you have right now, how many followers you have. I'm not worried about how many people you're following, but I'm going to challenge you to write down how many tweets you have sent already at this moment, as well as how many followers do you have. And then when the next webinar happens, I'm going to ask those same questions and get your responses to find out how many tweets have you sent and how many followers have you gained in the last month. Those right there are data that we want to follow, because what that does is it shows what the slide is telling you: presence, it matters. You have to be present in order to be that advocate for education. You have to be present in order to know what the dialogue is going on and how you can participate inside these various decision-makings that are going on. So it's important, and I challenge you to be present every day on Twitter. Check it, and like I said, you're going to be asked to do the 411 rule, which is helpful for you to make your presence well known in the Twitter world. One thing I always get asked about when I do things like this or talk about Twitter, and they're saying, you know, why do you do things and why is it? And they always say, well, I don't know what to start looking for. How do I know what to start tweeting about? How do I know what is out there, what people are saying, and what are the conversations? In order to strengthen that use, and I call this the task to strengthen, in order to do that, the greatest place to start for just beginning is the search.twitter.com. And I'm going to bring that up on my screen here for you all. And what it basically does is you type it in, and it automatically brings it up to this page, and you can type in a keyword in there. If you know the hashtags, you can. I'm just going to throw this out there because I know this is relevant in Colorado, but I'm going to do park results to see if there's anything in there. And the fun part about this is that when you do this, it allows you to find conversations that are going on. As you can see here, park results are new, so I went and down within a couple of weeks that this will start picking up because people are starting to get the results. But you can find out. If that didn't work, then you can go back and you can type in just basically just the word itself, park results, and it'll bring up a variety of documentation, words that have been there. Now there we got a little bit more. As you can see, we already have one here from Aaron Barker, who's a Colorado educator voice. The thing about it is that we can find material of people who are talking about this topic, and we can retweet that content out with quoting, and that'll help us strengthen us as advocates in education. You can scroll down and find out what's going on, what are the conversations. You can share these with multiple people, and it's all here available to you when you go just to start off as, well, where do I begin when I want to start searching my 401s or talking about all those great things? That's where you can go. You start off with search.twitter.com. That allows you to find those answers and going from there. If you have any questions, just hashtag Colorado Ed Voice or hashtag actually it's CO Ed Voice Chat or CO Ed Voice. If you have any questions, I can see you here. I want you to start practicing using the Twitter hashtag for questions, or if there's a comment you want to give, let me know. Since I have everyone muted, I can bring you up here and we'll talk. So what are some of the best practices or the best practices in order to be a great advocate for our students and for our profession and our schools? Is there's a variety of ways to do this, and I'm going to talk about the two that really stood out to me that I felt were important based on the 4 levels of being awareness, feedback, collaboration, as well as the advocacy. And that is basically first starting, I was talking and engaging with mentors. We need to, and what I mean by mentors is we need to engage with those people that we start following, we start seeing, and we know they're important. Or sometimes there may be that other person that you just really want to push to the next level and get some feedback from them. We need to start engaging those. And the best way to do it is to, one, again, follow them on Twitter. Start seeing and observing what they're doing, what they're saying. You learn a lot about a person's credibility, and you learn a lot about a person in what they're doing. The retweets, and like again, I'm going to talk about the retweets a little bit more in depth of just basically the general versus the quotes. And then when you're engaging with mentors, you also have the idea is asking questions directly, okay? Asking questions directly. And then the best thing that I've always found value is, and I guess it's just that affirmation is when I tweet something out in the world, into the Twitter world and finding it, I always love when people give comments on posts of things that I have to say. Or if I share something, I will give my own quote or opinion on it. You know, if it's an article that I saw, I'll give my feedback because I've read it and I give it back to them just to get it entice them to see what they had to say. And we get into a little discussion about it, and I love it. That's what the whole Twitter world, and that's what we as Colorado Educator Voice members, we want to do that. We want to engage in the conversations, and we want to make sure that our voices are being heard. The other way is I believe in when the best practices is that we have the 140 character change. And again, I put down there the search.twitter.com because that is an important site that you can go to when you're starting to look if you want to know, all right, what do we want to talk about? And then start following the experts. Start sharing what they're doing. Start following them and participating in conversations with them, pushing out their articles or pushing out their tweets. Like I said, sometimes we're not reinventing the wheel, we're just improving the wheel. We're creating a different style of it, and some people can say things better than I can, and I'll retweet them, and I'll even quote it and say that this was better than what I can say. And that's the way you want to use it. But also understand that when I always tell people when working with Twitter is you have to understand that you have 140 characters to make a change or to make it powerful. And how are you going to say it? You know, I always think about, before I speak, I think about what I want to do because I'm going to use those 140 characters to the best that I can. And that when someone sees it, when they retweet it or retweet quote or when they like it, I know I did my job, and I wanted to make sure that I effectively communicate with them. So the thing about it is the best way to be an advocate for that, again, is really just how do I want to digest and put in within the 140 characters, what do I really want to say? Credibility. This is important, especially in today's social media world. And it was interesting because I did some research this last week when we were talking about credibility, and we were just kind of discussing it within my classroom, and then I started talking about it with my school administrators, and then it really brought up, and I was like, wow, we really don't know, especially if we're just starting out, we really don't know what it really means when I retweet or retweet and quote, and really what I do when I click a like. So what I did is I did some research, and this is what I found out through some of the articles and the material, the research that I did. First off, when we retweet, we have two options to do it. We can retweet with a quote, which is my preference because when I retweet someone's content or someone's comment, I want to make sure that they know where I stand. I want them to make sure that they know what I'm really supporting and what I'm not supporting. And that's why I love the quote. Now understand that when you retweet with a quote, it doesn't give you a brand new 140 characters. What it does is it takes what you're retweeting and then it gives you a limited amount of characters that you can use. So that right there shortens down what you can actually say. And that's where the challenge comes in. Or you can just say, well, I really don't have anything to say. I'm really just basically right on dot with them or I'm right on point with them. Then you can just click the little retweet button and it goes out and it goes a follower. I always love it when they talk about the retweets. You know, you're only so many steps away from Kevin Bacon and all these amazing people. That's my favorite story about that. That retweeting is just in general is just clicking that little button saying you're supporting them, you like the idea, and you're going from there. But like I said, I find more value when I do a retweet with a quote. It allows me, like again, to give my opinion or to offer more support or to get the person to think. I like to play the devil's advocate at times, not going to lie, but it's always great because then what it does is it allows you to build your credibility as an individual. Now, Twitter used to have what was called favorite, and it was a star. And as I said before, earlier, they changed it. And it went, now it's called a like, and they put a heart. So I think they're trying to follow the Facebook like in some fashion or form. Personally, this is my opinion. I'm not a big fan of it, because I like the favorite better, but we have to move on from our own opinion. What the like does is this. It does two things for you. When you like something, it automatically creates an online filing system that you're saying, okay, I'm looking through my feed right now, or I'm using a service to look through these various chats, and I like this article or I like this comment, but I really don't want to digest it yet, so I want to file it away, and I don't want to go back and have to look through my entire feed, so what I'm going to do is click the like button. And the like button is going to put it in an on-filing system. And then when I go to my homepage, my Twitter account, I can click on, it'll tell you, photos, it'll tell you likes, it'll tell you the photos and everything you've done, and you click on your likes, and it saves a record of what you liked. Also, what I've come to find out through the research that I've read is when you like something, as long as the same way as you're retweeting, is you're giving some type of approval to the topic. Now, some people, they say, well, I just use the like system just to file up ideas. That's great. No problem with that. But also to be very aware of ideas when people approve, when people see that you like something, they also throw into the indication that you are approving of something. It's like giving the stamp of approval. So when you're retweeting and you're liking something, you're giving the stamp of approval of what's being communicated or shared in the Twitter world. We don't think about that. And that's where people come out and they start attacking you, and they start, looking at your character and your credibility, and they're like, well, so-and-so liked this, and they found it to be fun and exciting, and I disagree with it. That's the point, that we have to understand that when we look at things, we're sharing things that we know are pertinent to what our topic is about, and when it comes down to our advocacy, or being advocates for education. And, the thing about it is that we are able to explain ourselves online, and like I said, that's why I do the retweet with quote, and then I do a like, because then they can see, oh, this person did this, they're carrying out the content, they're sharing why they liked it or why they didn't like it. Now I know where they stand, and now I know what they're possibly working with. And it could be, and I've had some great online arguments and conversations with people because of just a simple like button, or at the time it was the favorite button, and just having dialogue and realizing when they finally realize where I stand on issues, they're like, oh, and it's the fun part about it, that's also gone to where he says, when we talk about the levels of engagement, the collaborative part went to the next level. So I didn't say I didn't make any enemies. I just said I got people thinking, and I was able to collaborate with those people and find out more, and we had a better discussion of what was going on the topic that we were talking about. The next thing we're going to talk about is, you heard me a couple of times say the 411. And the 411 is my favorite thing to do. And it's interesting. It takes a while to engage yourself and see how it works, but the research behind it, in a lot of the Twitter books, the books that I've read, have all referenced it. There is a lot of them that call like the 523. I like the 411 because for me it's a lot easier, and it makes sense for me. You think about the 411, that's the code for like, well, give me more information. And so I know we always use that in the school setting, using like, well, what's the 411? What's the HAPS? What's going to happen? So how it works is this. The 4 stands for, you are to tweet out 4 pieces of relevant original content from others. Okay? Maybe you say that again, it says there are 4 pieces of relevant original content from others, and then you're going to retweet 1 relevant tweet for every self-promoting tweet. So the graphic organizer, the infograph on the right, kind of goes in. The first part talks about the Twitter management tools, and like I said, I use TweetDeck, but it goes into talk about a little bit more about what the 411 rule is. It gives you there that the 411 keeps your tweets interesting and compact. It's a U.S. number dial, so find information. But if you take a look how the Twitter content distribution works, the primary goal is to distribute content thoughtfully. That's what it means by the 411. It means to distribute content thoughtfully. Then when in doubt, you just kind of figure out the 411. But you want to avoid the excess of self-promotion, because what it'll do, it'll detract your followers. You'll lose your engagement, and it goes from there. I find it more value to go and research using the search.twitter.com, finding relevant information there that I know it needs to be pointed out, or I find something that says everyone needs to know about this, and I tweet it out. Okay, I retweet it out. I go from there. Sometimes I may just find that article, and they give you that opportunity to tweet it out. I tweet it. I try to find 4 original pieces from other people, and then I go back and I do my 1-1. I retweet 1 relevant for every self-promoting tweet. So in next webinar, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, and we're going to actually practice this, but there is a lot of research online that does talk about what the 411 is, and when you start doing it, you start participating in the 411 rule, it makes a difference. Not only does it make a difference, is it builds up on your tweets that I told you to keep track of, that how many tweets do you have now versus how many you're going to have in the next month when we have our next webinar, to how many followers do you engage. Now, when you engage followers, don't be sad if people unfollow you. That's okay. The ones that are going to be your advocates, the ones that are going to be your support system, the ones that are going to be part of your professional learning network, they're going to stay with you. I always think about it when the Devil Wears Prada at the very end of the movie, when she says, gives her boss the list and says, these all people promised that they were going to stay with me if I was to leave. I mean, that's how our follower group is. So the best way to build that is use the 411 rule. Practice doing that. And of course, like I said, if you have any questions on that, you know how to get a hold of me. I'll put my email up and everything at the very end of this webinar. Again, my handler name is at the beginning. So the thing is, I mean, I'm willing to help you on that. It took me a while to finally figure out the mechanics of it when I started experimenting and working with it. But then when I started finding out how it works, I mean, it opened my mind. 2, it makes the presence. It makes you present on the Twitter world, and it starts to build that credibility, and people start to see how active you are, and they start to follow you, and they start to promote you and push your articles, your content out there. And it's just amazing when you see your phone blowing up because people are just retweeting or sharing or liking your information, and that's what we want. We want to be that advocate because we want our voice to be taken to the next level, and we want to put it out there into the Twitter world. So what do I have for you? Here is your month challenge. Your month challenge this month for this part of November, this end of November to the beginning of December, when our next webinar is, I want you to practice the 411 this month for a person or a topic. And you can go to search.twitter.com, or if you want to start following other people, do that. Do the 411. Find original content and tweet it out. And then for every self-proclaiming content, retweet 1 of them. Okay, retweet 1 of them for every self-proclaiming content. When you do that, you have the 2 hashtags. I put this one here because this is the one that our cohort's working with. And if you want to use the one that's for the Colorado voice, all you got to do is get rid of the word chat. But I also have one that is the co-ed voice chat, which is also the title of our blog, that we take all these webinars, we take all the information material, we take what people are sharing and put that on there, so that way you have a resource bank to go back to find and say, okay, now what did that crazy man Rivera say again? You have that opportunity there. So I would love to see you try this, and like I said, I will support you. This is one way to get a hold of me as well, is just send a message and tweet it out to, hashtag co-ed voice chat, and I can help you and support you and go from there. So that's your month challenge. It's kind of like your homework assignment, okay, your homework assignment. Now, what I wanted to do is, because the kind of teacher that I am, I always like to try and support my students or my fellow colleagues or my fellow, friendships or fellowships. And we're going to participate in some chats that are going on to where I can participate. You got to excuse me, my bird's tweeting over here because I'm giving a Twitter chat. He's tweeting for me. Education chats is my favorite place. I participate at least 1 every night that I have time for. And what I love about it is I put down on the bottom part of the slide is the website that you can go to. It's available there. I'm going to bring it up because I did look at it. And what I love about it is that whether you're in Eastern, Central, Mountain, Pacific, so if I come to Mountain, because I live in Colorado, it'll put the chats that are happening right now. And you click on today, you can go and change it to your week, month, or the agenda. But I know we're doing our webinar now, but if you take a look, from here to here, this is how many educational Twitter chats are going on right now. And you can join them. It tells you the hashtag to join. If you wanted to bookmark and say, well, I know one coming up on Friday, you know, thinking like right here, okay, thought-provoking chat about education, about good topics ideas, which is a good one. You can add it to your calendar, and then it puts it on your calendar, it adds it to your Google Calendar, and it goes from there, and it tells you that it happens Friday, November 20th, you know, from 8 to 9. I love this. When I discovered this through a resource, and of course I got it from Twitter, it was amazing because I was able to jump in and start seeing what I love to do is, I don't call it creeping, but I like to call it monitoring. I'll join a chat in another state, and I just like to see what they're talking about. I like to see what their point of views are. And I like to see, you know, the states that are involved in the same decision-making and the same policy-making that we're dealing with. I like to look at that and follow them and just take ideas and bring it up. And then there's sometimes I'll ask these people questions in there. You know, I'd say, hey, I'm from Colorado. I'm participating in your chat. I just have some ideas and thoughts that I want to ask you about or share with you. And that right there goes to level number 3, collaborative. It's building that personal learning network. And then, of course, it's making the advocacy part of it. You're going beyond just the awareness and feedback. Now you're becoming collaborative. We're doing what we do on a daily basis as educators. So, I mean, it gives you there, that's the agenda. You can go to a week, and it'll load up and say, you're all this, and this is kind of crazy. That's why I don't do the week. Or you can go to month, and it's going to be even more uglier. That looks like a spreadsheet that I usually do at school. So I just stick with the agenda on a daily basis because it's easier for you. And the thing about it is, if you're traveling to the East Coast or you're going to end up in the Central, it's available. All you got to click on it, and it adjusts the time for you on your calendar. Just make sure that when you do say that you are in the right time zone, and of course Colorado or Mountain Standard Time, so you want to make sure you're on the right time zone and going from there. So that's your month challenge, and that's where I was talking about the educational chats, going from there. So basically that's everything in a nutshell for tonight's webinar, you know, Edutweeter 101, kind of giving you the basics. I like what you said, Marty, the learning the in and outs of tweeting, and that's really what it is. We are going to go in more depth in the each month webinars, but tonight I just wanted to talk about what is the importance of the engagement of our presence, our credibility, and then our activity on Twitter. And as you saw, there are potential learning moments. There are potential moments to be the largest advocate for not only for our students but for our profession, both in and outside of the building, and not just, you know, within our local districts, within our state, but also within a national level and global. So I mean, that's basically what we are and how we should really use Twitter when it comes down to becoming an effective and an amazing edutweeter. So if there aren't any questions, I'm going to be on for a little bit longer. But if there are any questions, all you got to do is just tweet me a question or a comment or something at Coed Voice or Coed Voice Chat. And like I said, I am going to be on here for a while. And if not, then I want to wish you all for for participating and being here. And if you're going to catch this on the down low, as they say, you know, you're going to be watching it. We want to say hopefully you found this to be of value. And if there are any questions, just tweet me. Otherwise, have a great evening and see you next month. And I want to wish you and your family members a very great, happy Thanksgiving and holiday week. You as educators deserve it. And enjoy it, the days off, and make sure you spend time with your family and not do any grading or any schoolwork until, you know, Sunday evening or Monday morning. So with that said, if you have no questions or comments, have a great one.
Thanks, Troy.
Thank you, Marcus.